David, tell us, well, kind of a big picture of what's going on, the collision of the Facebook boycott, COVID, racial injustice, IP cookie deprecation. There's so much coming up. The Apple IDF, which has been sort of pushed off but is looming. Lots going on in the industry. Just give us sort of your take on where things are going and how we can sort of get through all this.
Look, in the last 6 to 9 months, we have seen a collision, and it's a collision of a couple of global crises like COVID-19 and the much more visible face of racial injustice, and our own industry's crises in challenges like the deprecation of third-party cookies and mobile IDs, new privacy regulations, new revelations about fees and our supply chain, and most recently, an organized boycott of Facebook. Each of these, they're individually big deals, but the disruption associated with the collision of them all in such a short time span, I feel like it's causing us to re-examine our values. It's almost like so many of us in the industry are stepping back and asking ourselves why. Like, why are we advertising the way we do? Why are we investing here but not there? Why are we following a certain playbook? And I think those are good questions to ask, and it's good that this set of crises is forcing us to ask those questions, because it's beginning to surface a realization that the way we've been doing business for so long has actually been contributing to a breakdown in trust. And it's trust between us as media partners, trust between advertisers, agencies, publishers, and all the technology that sits in between us. And it's also a breakdown in trust between all of us and the consumer, our audiences, our customers. But I'm pleased because the recognition and realization around this threat to trust has also caused, in recent times, in the last 60 to 90 days, a subtle shift in behavior in a positive and a new and positive way. Let me give you an example around brand safety. Brand safety is a topic that we've been talking about for the better part of a decade, and it's been top of mind. And until recently, brand safety has been a defensive strategy. It's a pulling away. It's brands blocking keywords or blocking domains. And that defensive or pulling away strategy is a transmission of distrust, right? The brand doesn't trust the content. What's changed is that we feel like suddenly there's this leaning in or more offensive approach to brand safety, where we're hearing from media buyers that they want to figure out, lean in, work harder on how to get more scale in media that performs and also media that matters to society, such as news and journalism. So the last 6 months have been this set of crises that have caused us to kind of think through how we're doing things. And we're starting to see a change from a defense or a moving away strategy that pulls trust out of the system to one that puts it back. And I think that's a good thing.
What is happening now with news and brands returning? Of course, you work with a number of publishers. They're sort of looking for that to come back around quality news sites. What's happening, and has there been much development in terms of the buy side's interest, appetite, activation around news?
Look, I'm really pleased to see that brands are starting to come back into quality news media since what we saw as a low point around the beginning of COVID in late March and April. My feeling is it's critical for advertisers to fund professional journalism right now and going forward. And here's why. Look, first and foremost, I think we can all agree that marketers have a fiduciary responsibility to their brands to invest their advertising dollars in media environments that have high potential to perform. And hands down, news media performs. Let me share some statistics on news that I think are very telling. First off, professional news reaches 95% of American families and 100% of this coveted 25 to 50-year-old demographic. News indexes highest against what we call super influencers. These are high income, highly educated audiences that represent about 2.5 trillion, that's trillion with a T, dollars in buying power. Engagement with digital news has nearly doubled in the last 3 years, and time spent is up 93% in that same period of time. All of those stats come together to reinforce just how strong news performs, but it's not just because I'm saying it. A couple of years ago, ComScore studied the effect of advertising in professional trusted content environments, and they found that when you advertise in these environments, your ads perform 300% better than in the open web. And particularly as it relates to these mid-funnel metrics that push consumers from brand loyalty to brand influence and ultimately to purchase. So to start out with, I hope that marketers would want to be in news environments simply because they really perform. But if that's not enough motivation, let's really look at what's happening now in professional news. I would argue we are in a moment in which there is an existential crisis to the future of trusted professional news. Let me share some more statistics that are actually a little scary. In the last decade, US newsroom employment is down 25% across the nation. And when you look specifically at local news, that stat is now 47%. Since 2004, 1,800 local news organizations shuttered completely. They're gone. They don't exist anymore. At the same time that this decline in the newsroom employment is happening, news media consumption is also changing, and we all know this. In 2018, Northeastern University published a study, and I'm going to share some stats here. 90% of the 6,500 or so college students they interviewed said they obtained their news media from social media platforms. The problem is almost half don't know how to tell the difference between real news and fake news, which is a huge problem in these social environments. The killer stat, though, that really bothers me, that really is concerning, is that of that group, 36%, just a little over a third, said that because they can't tell the difference, they now have grown to distrust all news. That shit is scary. We talked earlier about this threat to trust. Frankly, in the news environment, I think we are facing an existential crisis that I call truth decay. It's really serious, and it's not going to suddenly fix itself. So this is why I think that it's really time for advertisers and agencies to lean in and begin to more actively support news. And I think it's starting to happen. You've been hearing much more vocal support over the last 6 months for professional news environments, and we're actually starting to see the dollars come back in. It feels like there was this perfect storm in that March, April, and May timeframe when news organizations removed their paywalls, which of course reduced the likelihood of new subscribers to their news properties. And at exactly the same time, advertisers pulled away. So the news organizations were really facing, like I said, this perfect storm that was terrible. But coming the end of May, June, and now through the summer, we've seen much higher sell-through rates and even higher CPMs in news, which I think is really important and a really good sign. We're hearing directly from advertisers and agencies who want curated news deals, across our portfolio of 7 news publishers. We have DSP partners, in particular MediaMath, who have created a curated, responsible media marketplace that's kind of like the easy button for advertisers who want to immediately get access to professional brand safe news without all the outside noise. We're a part of that. Our publishers are a part of that. So I think that's really good news. And the brand safety vendors themselves have actually been investing in new technologies to better contextualize the news environment and to apply better sentiment analysis in order to differentiate between positive news, neutral news, and negative news. And all of these things come together to make it easier for advertisers to engage, to get the scale they want in news environments, and to do so without the risk to brand safety and suitability. So I think we're seeing some positive signs in the last 60 to 90 days. And I think the confluence of the crisis that we've seen has actually motivated that lean in and that lean into sustained news. So I'm pleased.
And David, just tell us a little about TrustX, what you guys are up to, some progress you've made, and some plans ahead.
So we built the company 4 years ago. By the way, it's our 4th anniversary coming up at the end of September. We built the company because we were hearing from publishers, premium content publishers, that their content and their audiences were being commoditized, and that programmatic advertising in particular was diminishing the value that they can provide to marketers and agencies who wanted quality content and high performance. We spent the first few years of our existence creating a marketplace that raises the bar on standards like viewability, fraud-free, transparency, the elimination of fees, and all the things that made programmatic inefficient and underperforming. We're now moving into an area where we're looking at audience, we're looking at identity, we're looking at privacy, and trying to figure out how we propel the most discerning buyers and the most discerning sellers into the next wave of what's going to happen in digital advertising broadly and programmatic advertising more specifically. We have great partnerships with a number of DSPs, including MediaMath. We're part of the Source initiative, which for us is completing the picture. We've always felt that transparency and accountability on the supply side was something that we could handle, and it's great to be working with MediaMath Source to complete that picture so the buyers have a clean supply chain from their dollars right through to the publisher. So there's a lot going on. We're really excited about the future, and despite this collision of many crises at one time, I think sometimes crisis creates a motivation for innovation. Crises creates a motivation for change, and I feel like we're part of that opportunity to move forward, and I'm pleased to be there.